You need to know this. Our leaders are killing us. Killing us with economic policies based on a failed ideology loved only by the elites who invented it. David Stuckler and Sanjay Basu have a new book out. It's called The Body Economic: Why Austerity Kills. They're both professors. One's an economist at Oxford. The other's an epidemiologist at Stanford. And they make what some would say obvious, others would say startling claim that the long-term effects of cuts to social services and government programs, a.k.a. austerity, have destroyed the European economy and thrown millions of people into unemployment. And according to Stuckler and Basu's research, not only do these savage cuts stunt growth and prolong recessions, they are also a major public health problem. In Greece, the victim of some of the EU's harshest austerity policies, cuts to mosquito spraying programs resulted in that Balkan nation's first malaria epidemic since the 1970s. Decreased funding for HIV prevention programs, again, part of European austerity, have coincided with a 200% increase in infection rates in Europe in just the past 2 years. The devastating public health impact of budget cuts aren't just a European problem, by the way. Here in the United States, we call it sequestration. I was on an airplane yesterday. I was on 2 airplanes yesterday. I flew Portland, Chicago here to D.C. And, you know, they slowed down the controllers. Every 14 days, I guess it is, every air traffic controller has to take 1 day off without pay. That's part of the sequestration, the austerity. And boy, did that get some people's panties in a wad. I'm telling you, that really, I mean, you get rich white businessmen on airplanes, and women for that matter, but I'm guessing it was probably more the men who were driving this, and wealthy politicians, and their planes are late and they're missing their connections. They make things happen. And so we have entered the age of austerity as well. And just like in Greece, those who need the public's help the most are suffering as a result, while the people, you know, the people who are flying around the country, the Republicans are going to fix that. But as a result of completely avoidable across-the-board cuts to Medicare, cancer clinics across our country are telling patients they can't give them chemotherapy. Sorry. One of my daughters goes to school at, and another works in the emergency room at one of the largest hospitals in Georgia, or in Oregon. And they were telling me over the weekend, we had breakfast Sunday morning, and or Saturday morning, they were telling me how the hospital is taking as I recall, it was $30 million, might be $60 million, but my recollection is it was a $30 million cut from the sequestration. And it's like, you know, so everybody's, you know, more and more people are having to do volunteer work. They're having to work longer hours. They're having to kick in hours, you know, without pay. This is bizarre. Oh, this is Republican America. Federal Meals on Wheels programs no longer able to deliver healthy meals to tens of thousands of seniors in need. The most recent number I heard is 70,000. Administrators at one Virginia Meals on Wheels center say that this is the first cut that they've ever seen since the program was created in '72. Keep in mind, Meals on Wheels brings food to people who otherwise wouldn't have food. What makes all this suffering all the more tragic is that the ideas behind it are based on both a faulty economic theory and shoddy research done to try to back up that theory. 2 weeks ago, graduate students at the University of Massachusetts published a critique of the famous Reinhart-Rogoff study that has been used by everyone from Paul Ryan to Rand Paul to the Simpson Bowlers to justify full-throttle European-style austerity. According to the researchers, this Reinhart-Rogoff study, which concluded that high amounts of debt stunt economic growth when it goes over 90% of GDP, is full of distortions, exclusions, and outright lies. Reinhart and Rogoff excluded important evidence from their final analysis. And in one instance, there's an entire line of data on the spreadsheet that was supposed to auto-calculate that didn't. It wasn't even considered. But the tide is turning. Last month, Treasury Secretary Jack Lew called on his European counterparts to end their foolish budget cuts and instead focus on unemployment. And in Italy, last week said, okay, we're going to do that. We're going to end the austerity nonsense. And this week, they had a bond sale. And guess what? The cost, the interest rate that they had to pay for their bonds actually went down, which means people have, people have, again, confidence in Italy. So they could borrow at the lowest rate since 2010. I mean, it should be as obvious to Washington as it is to the rest of the world. Austerity is a complete and total failure. I mean, Congress, the proof of this, look at they're rehiring air traffic controllers. How about everybody else?